sorts of odd shapes. It goes down this way and it has a tentacle that connects it to the road. You have this sort of expanded area here so that you meet frontage requirements. It also extends down this side of lot 3A, again, to meet the minimum lot size. So what you're left with here, and I should point out this is on a hill, the house is on a hill, the driveway goes up. So what you're left with is really very little usable land, such that the use of lot 16 is important to 52, but also important to 44 because it was their understanding that they had use of that area.
So Brad, from your planning board days, would that have been that odd shape just to get enough land to make it basically an acre and a half buildable lot?
Well, the thing I'm wondering about was the easement generated to give frontage? We had the 50-foot with backland lots. We had 50 feet of frontage, and that's why I'm asking about what the original purpose of.
Yeah. But even the way that the lot is irregularly shaped, is that enough to be, just so that it would have enough square footage to be
square footage and access to a main road?
Right.
You have to have frontage.
Yeah, for the frontage, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think
if we change frontage goal.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt, Brad. If you go to the first page of the subdivision plan, which I can also share, that might better orient you to the neighborhood. So you see here's Powder Hill Road. It's not a cul-de-sac, but it's a circular road with, again, generally quadrilateral shaped lots extending off of it, with the exception of this lot 16 and a couple other lots that have a little bit of a different shape, but lot 16 being sort of the most obvious example of a lot that could benefit from the use of a backyard. In any event, the parties would like to split this up, and that's going to require the granting of 3 variances. So the first variance is from the minimum lot shape size, 1.5 acres in 1995. 44 Powder Hill Road is currently 1.5 acres. When they convey in fee part of the easement to 52 Powder Hill Road, they'll be conveying 5,444 square feet, leaving what will be the new lot 14A with 60,056 square feet, or approximately 1.37 acres. Again, not a substantial deviation from the minimum lot size, but a deviation that exists. Again, I can go through the reasons why we think that's appropriate, primarily here being the unusual shape of the abutting lot and the desire of the parties to just put this issue behind them and restore neighborly relations. The second variance that will be required under this new plan is a variance from the lot shape factor. Now, the lot shape factor requirement did not exist in 1995 at the time this development was created. And interestingly, even though 52 Powder Hill Road, lot 16 is receiving a little over 5,000 square feet of land, the lot shape factor both before and after that subdivision is 0.1. The town requirement is 0.5, thus the requirement for a variance, but we're not seeing any change in the lot shape factor of this particular lot if the variance and subdivision were allowed. And then lastly, and this is a more minor point, in the process of preparing, and I'll share my screen again, in the process of preparing the subdivision plan, it was noted that this accessory unit, this shed next to the driveway at 52 Powder Hill Road, doesn't quite meet setback requirement at one corner of the shed. It's 16 feet off the property line as opposed to 20 feet off the property line. Only one of the 4 corners does not meet that side yard setback. Notably, this was an innocent infringement. the residents of 52 installed this in 2016, or excuse me, 2018, with the understanding that they had fully met setback. And there is a fence here separating the 52 Powder Hill Road property from the abutting property. And the neighbor has certainly never expressed any concern about the location of that particular shed. So we'd be seeking a variance in that regard, since it was brought to our attention in the process of creating this particular plan.
Is that on a pad, or is it just so it could be shifted, or is it just it's really set where it is?
Yeah, I believe it's just set where it is. I did include some photographs of the shed in my application. I'd be happy to pull those up and share them. Here, let me share my screen once again. It would be extremely difficult to move, I believe, especially, to only move it, 4 feet where the infringement is innocent and no one has expressed concern at this juncture.
Right. To do that, would it impact the fencing in anything anyway, or how is that?
To meet the setback, this shed would need to move closer to the driveway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the abutter, I don't know, are they here? Do we know if they're, or if have we asked the abutter if they're okay with that?
The abutter is a Mr. David Perry. I have not had an opportunity to discuss the shed with him specifically. I have been in touch with him on other issues. He was a witness in the case in which I represent the McDowells, and he's been very cooperative and has generally been of the opinion that people should do with their land what they wish. But of course, I don't wish to speak for Mr. Perry. He was duly noticed.
He would have been noticed, right? All the abutter notifications went out appropriately, it looked like, right, Pamela?
Yes, they went out as required.
Okay, so.
Okay.
So if you'd like me to speak a little bit more to the 48 factors, I'm happy to. I think I've touched on some of them already.
Yeah, but just highlight the 4 conditions, that we normally seek to be sure we can cover in our decision, so that we know that, and you're probably, well, not probably, you're conversant in all of them, I'm sure. So why don't you just highlight those, and we'll go from there.
Of course. So with regard to the first factor, that there are circumstances that exist relating to the soil condition, shape, or topography of the land or structures that uniquely affect such land or structures, but do not generally affect the district. I've touched on that a little bit. We have some very oddly shaped lots with a developer who initially intended to create use easements that were to be the backyards of property. Here we have some discrepancies in the chain of title that led to some questions about the exclusivity and scope of this particular easement. And because of the very odd shape of the lots, particularly lot 1652 Powder Hill Road, it would be appropriate to simply extinguish that easement and allow the parties to, by agreement, split that parcel into 2 and each take part of it in fee that they could then use for regular backyard uses, consistent with town of Bolton zoning regulations. Part 2, that literal enforcement of the provisions of the Bolton zoning law would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the applicants. As I touched upon, this is a matter in litigation. If the parties were not able to consummate this particular settlement, which is really just particular to their 2 parcels, it would be detrimental to both neighborly relations and financially expensive. It's really the party's strong preference to just simply split this land and move on. Part 3,
it's not altering any other abutter that's within that subdivision.
That's correct. It's not going to affect any other butter. It's not going to rule upon the exclusivity or use of the use easements there. Generally, we're just accepting this particular easement and splitting it effectively in 2, so that it no longer exists and each party owns it in fee. The third factor, that the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. I think we just touched on this, Mr. Ahern. This is not going to affect the public good detrimentally. In fact, it would favor it. Of course, we want neighborly relations. We want people to have backyards. I think that's why the minimum lot size requirement exists. We want people in residential neighborhoods to be able to enjoy their land and granting of the variances, all three of them will allow that to occur without detrimentally affecting anyone else in the town, since this is really confined to these two properties. And then part 4, that the desired relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws. Again, one of the lots is getting bigger. One of the lots is getting only minorly smaller, very small deviation from the minimum lot size that existed at the time of the development. We're not asking for a lot to be, half an acre or an acre. It's going to be 1.37 acres. The other lot is getting larger. With regard to the lot shape factor, nothing's changing. And with regard to the shed, it's a very minor and innocent infringement to which no neighbors have objected. So unless there's any other questions, I would respectfully submit that all 3 variances be granted. And I'm happy to take any questions.
I asked my questions along the way, so I think I'm good at the moment, but certainly I'd like to hear from the board any questions, and then if the board has none, just allow anyone that's on the call or the Zoom from the public to ask a question or any comments they have. If they do, we just ask them to state their name and address before commenting.
Yeah, well, I would only comment that these are the type of things that happen with some of these newer types of subdivision that unfortunately I hope have been cleared up. But I basically haven't got a huge problem with the exchange of
Yeah.
to straighten out a problem that is there's no other
Right. I mean, it's
result
like,
in another building lot or anything of the same size. So anyway, that's my comment.
right. And I don't believe we're really creating a non-conformity. It's just, what happens through the zoning process or the variance process, where sometimes, you alter the current zoning there, but it seems to predate a lot of the current zoning.
The current zoning wouldn't permit it. So
Right.
anyway.
Are the 2 property owners, are they here on the call?
They are. Marissa Miller, that's her married name. Marissa Salamanca is the name on the property. She is the owner of 44 Powder Hill Road. And I will let you speak for yourself if you'd like to, Marissa, but of course has signed off seeking this variance and is in support and would like to move forward with the settlement. I also see Renee's iPhone. That's Renee McDowell. I believe she's also on with her husband, Mike. They are the owners of 52 Powder Hill Road, who also support the grant of these variances and seek them.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that they were both here and both support the findings.
Yes, we just all gotten really good letting Tara talk for us. So
Yeah.
after 4 years of this.
Which is good. Yeah.
I would have done the same thing.
Yes.
Well, to see a smiling party, that's a good sign that this is probably a relief to get this resolved.
That's what.
Yeah, I that's why I'm here, because 4 years of this. So
Okay. Yeah.
definitely an agreement from a neighborhood standpoint.
Perfect. Good. Any other comments? Any other questions? If not, then we'll do a motion to sort of close the public hearing portion, and then we can entertain a motion or motions to Pam, for your, would we be able to encompass them all in one motion vote, or should there be 3 separate votes?
You can do them as one motion.
Okay, that'll make it easier.
I'll motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay.
Gerard Ahern,
Yes.
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Bradley Reed,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
Gabrielle Lamano.
Yes.
Right, perfect. Okay, so is there any discussion amongst the board, about the, 3 variance items, or are we good, to propose a motion to accept them, or, any conditions? I know in the write-up, they talk about, when they allow this, breakout, or allocation of property to the other, owner, that is so that they can use it as a backyard, and they talk about items like maybe taking down trees or clearing or planting grass, or, I think it's even talked about putting in a swimming pool potential. I just want to emphasize that from my perspective, that anything we grant, it's just the actual motion or the variances, any type of subsequent development within that parcel would, would have to, potentially, if they're gonna put in a pool and it affects setbacks and things like that, or whatever, they'd have to deal with that. We're not granting a pool or something like that with this variance. Is that your understanding on the rest of the board?
Think
Mine,
that
yeah.
If I can just interject here, Mr. Ahern, just so I understand, my clients would.
yeah, I would say it would preclude
No.
develop.
Brad, I think you're breaking up a little bit.
In other words, putting in a pool, you'd have to meet the offsets and all that sort
Right, yeah, okay.
of property lines.
Yeah, to be clear, we're just seeking the variances, and everyone would seek to use the land that they acquire for normal backyard uses.
Right.
There may be plantings or things of that nature, a swing
Mhm.
set. But again, anything that would require any further zoning variances or permits would be, duly applied for and sought in the future.
Well, I bring that up only because where there was some lack of clarity about what the easement was for, leading up to this, that at least from our granting authority, what we're allowed, that because it's something's referenced, I don't want someone down the road to say, oh, but in their application, they referenced a potential swimming pool, you approved the application. So, that there wouldn't be any side chatter about, well, did they approve that, so it's a variance to allow the, sort of the procedure process that you're trying to resolve here. And then whatever they do with it, yes, if they can fit a swimming pool or whatever, great, but if it's something that ultimately they go to design something, if it needs to come back to, or the town for a permit, then it's gonna have to follow that permit process.
Understood.
Okay, perfect. So, given that, and we don't have really much discussion, do we want to entertain a motion to approve the 3 variance requests?
I will make a motion to approve the 3 variance requests as submitted.
Okay, that was Brad.
Second.
Second, Brian Holmes. Perfect, okay. Got a roll call on that, Pam?
Yep. Gerard Ahern,
Yes?
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Bradley Reed,
Yes.
All right, thanks, Brad.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
Gabrielle Lamano.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, the motion to approve the 3 variance requests passes.
Great. Thank you very much for your consideration.
You're welcome. And Tara, you can follow up with Pam regarding the time for a decision, and then that will get then submitted to the clerk at the town, they're registered, then you'll have to do your process thereafter.
Yes, Pam's been very helpful for this process along with
Yeah.
my paralegal. So thank you, Pam.
Yeah, great. And Pam, just to, I think you said last time when we voted, we normally allow the chair to sign the decision on behalf of the board. I think we did that vote last time, but you said that we don't have to do that every time we make a decision.
It's in your rules and regulations.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
so we're good.
yep.
Okay. All right, so then we can move on to the next order of business. Thanks, Tara, and good luck to the two property owners.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, so We've got a couple other items that we can probably rip through pretty fast. The next item is the comprehensive permit for Mallard Lane. So it looks like we have to review the regulatory agreement and deed rider. Which is because they're sort of boilerplates, it looks like to me, and things, but
Yeah, the applicant used Mass Housing and they provide
Mhm.
standard forms and you
right,
just plug in the project information, but there's a condition in your approval for this project
Mhm.
which requires you review the documents prior to endorsement and prior to the first building permit being issued. So
Mhm.
that prompted this to be placed on the agenda for your vote.
right. So has the town council reviewed the structure and the boilerplate and or any inputs or any deviations that we'd have to consider, or are we
They
just gonna
will
say
be,
that-
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
or we just say the structure looks fine in the fact that they have both the regulatory agreement and the deed rider, because we're not making comments or having edits to that.
No, the condition also requires town council review.
Mhm.
So that would, it hasn't been completed yet, but that would occur prior to your endorsement of the documents. Your signatures are actually required on the forms.
Yeah, I saw that on there. So tonight
Yeah.
we'd only be saying that, assert that we've reviewed it.
Yeah, you can vote to review it, and then we'll wait for town council's review. And once that's complete, I'll request you come in and sign the documents.
Okay. And does that have to be signed by the entire board? Is that how that works? Just so
A
that
majority
everyone
of
knows?
the board.
A majority of the board. Okay, okay. Well, you want to bring up the document on the screen,
Sure.
and then we can just scroll through it and,
It's quite large. It's 40 pages, but
yeah. Well, we just flip it, like do a scroll.
sure.
And then is
Sure.
the deed rider a separate document, or is it embedded within it?
It's added as an attachment.
Okay.
Let me pull it up here.
Gerard, since we closed the public hearing on the last initiative, do we have to open anything back up for this, or it just opens up because we're talking about it?
No, this is we closed the public comment portion for that other one. This is still, I think we're still under, because this is like a board. I mean, this is.
Okay.
This is part of your public meeting, but it's not a hearing, so you don't need to
Right.
open or close anything for
Okay.
this.
Mhm.
I would feel a little more comfortable if the town council went through it first before we put our names on it, but that's just me.
Right.
Yes,
But
no, I
we
wouldn't
can at
ask
least
you to
review
sign.
it to say we looked at the structure, right? Because the town council, if they're gonna change anything or alter anything, it's just gonna be, we'll see the exceptions to what we looked at.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask you sign it until town council gives a final okay.
Right. So it basically, just flip through it, talks about the site, where it's located, the acres, and you say there's things that they're just gonna be put in, like placeholders for numbers or for sale price, registry. Yeah, just flip. So it's just really memorializing all the things we sort of reviewed during the comprehensive permit, all these things that are,
Yeah,
One,
it's
two.
a pretty standard document from the
Mhm.
state agency.
right. 1, 2, 3.
So we don't necessarily, without reading it word for word, though, know if anything has changed.
Well, there's things that they'll be putting in, it looks like, or whatever the town council reviews and, edits, but right now it's the boilerplate document from the state. So I assume if any of either the developer or the town had any, or the town council has any objections to certain things, it's gonna go back to the developer, but ultimately, so Jim Warren, he's
Yes.
in the developer. So this is what we would acknowledge, and then we'd have to sign, or certain members. Mhm. So, is that the sum of it? Oh, it's after, yeah.
Yeah, there's the deed
Restrictions.
writer.
Right, yeah.
That
The developer's information so far. Mhm. I think the intent initially is that we have to be sure that these documents are in place before they can have a, the issue the first one. So the fact that they've now got this status, we know they're under review, we can at least confirm that, we've seen the pre-final drafts and they've clearly have the regulatory agreement plus the deed writer documented. Mhm. Mhm. So what will we need tonight? Do we need to vote that we reviewed it, or just acknowledge we reviewed it and just?
yeah, it just requires acknowledgement of your review.
Mhm. Okay,
There's no conditions in there which say you're required to approve it, but it does
Mhm.
require your signature, so
right. But we want to, so we can, I mean, as a board, we could probably just make a statement that we reviewed the deed writer and accompanying, I mean, the regulatory agreement accompanying deed writer, and we'll await notification from town council that it's now ready for us to actually sign.
right.
Mhm. But at least a condition that they've submitted it to us for review, that's in process.
If we have any concerns with anything in this document, do we have to bring those to light in a public meeting?
If we did have them, I'd be, well, based on, without having the technical knowledge of what's in them and what may not be in them, that's where I think we're gonna rely on town council to give us their review, and if they notice something, they would advise us to say, yeah,
Right,
No.
I haven't had an opportunity to review this, and I feel like
Right.
I'd like to run through it in a little more
Mhm.
detail, so that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking, like, if we say we reviewed it, but then I'm like reading it tomorrow, and I'm like, that's really weird, and I have a question about it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right, but I think to what Pam said, we're saying so we reviewed the structure of it. We won't be obligated to sign it until after town council has,
Got you. So that's really
Confirm
the
that.
formal documentation of the review then.
right, yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds like
I got
they, it's, the permit said we needed to review it. I think it's more just from, or recall me, we want to be sure they have it, like it's, they can't start the process without being sure that these documents are signed off and official. So we're seeing that they've submitted them. Town council has it. I'm sure they'll review it and, and go back and forth if they have to with any edits that can be done. And then we'll get, I'm sure Pam will get notice to say, okay, it's now final, the board has to sign it, and then maybe before we sign it, we have a quick meeting if it's already, and if we don't already have one set, and we can then walk through and see what all the inputs are and.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And if there are no edits, I'll just inform you there's no edits and it's ready for signature.
Right, okay.
if you have specific questions, Elizabeth, you can forward them to me if you want to sit down and review it in more depth, and I can either try and answer them myself or forward them to council for review. and
Yeah, I'm
comment.
not even implying I will. I just want,
Mhm.
want to know what that
Yeah.
process is if I did. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, because if I recall on the, on some of the other 40B, when we got them, and we had, we haven't had to sign all, like, we didn't have, as I recall, regulatory agreements where we had to actually go in and as a board sign off on them, sign them, but there was where town council had signed or the applicants had signed and, so we saw like a completed set and just basically said, yep, okay, the deed right is there. The agreement's there, they're signed off, it's official, they've met that step and now they can go for getting a building permit or whatever, it's.
Yeah,
just didn't want
this
to-
is related specifically to the wording in the decision.
Mhm,
So that's why it's kind of brought to you this way.
yeah. Mhm. Okay. So again, we don't need to do a vote or anything, you said, Pam, it was just. we
No, I
can-
don't think
you-
so, no.
In your minutes, you can say, we acknowledge that we reviewed this, the structure of the regulatory and deed rider, acknowledging that they're both in the document and that it's pending, town council review.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then, we had, a review of minutes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
apologize, but I sent you a draft by accident instead of a proofread.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the content looked fine to me, but I was just gonna recommend doing like a spell check and.
Yeah,
just
sorry about
and
that.
The
I
name
said
check, I think like Gabrielle's last name said Lama instead of LO, but if you, but if you want to bring up the document and if anyone had if has had a chance to read it, they can look over it now. But
I looked through it, but it was for a meeting that I wasn't at, so.
yeah,
I looked through it, but I missed the misspelling of my last name. So thanks,
Uh,
Gerard.
I just try, right?
So yeah, some of the sentences are just awkward. I apologize
Right.
again. I didn't
Yeah.
proofread this version.
Right.
I'll correct that.
And then I guess like here in that first, like it says a change of a non-conforming, you had the anon, but you've caught those out now, so it's good. So. Yeah. So. Oh, and so the address on this one, right, 113, is it, because in the note you had for the town annual report, I think you had an address of 160 Still River, so I wanted to be sure that they're consistent. I wasn't sure.
Let me check on that. He had about 4 applications recently, so I might have confused the addresses.
Okay, just wait, because
Yeah.
if
Oh. Sorry.
Mhm.
I'll check that.
okay. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes? So,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes
is that
from
Liz?
the October 18th
Mhm.
meeting.
Seconded.
Okay,
Gerard Ahern,
yes?
Bradley Reed,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
Gabrielle Lamano,
Yes.
Did we miss someone there?
Well, I wasn't there, so.
He
I
was
didn't-
Brian.
Oh, yeah, right.
Brian
Yeah,
Holmes
yeah,
has
yeah.
to recuse himself from the vote.
Yeah, right, okay, perfect. And then, so we want to bring up the town meeting minutes, that's, the town meeting report, that's the sort of last item before we, get to, having introduction to our proposed associate. So this is where it's a special permit 160 Still River.
Yes, yep, I'll fix
So
that.
113 and it could be 160 or whatever is the right one for between
Yeah.
the two. Internal consistency, and then. So we only did 3 variances, 1 special permit in 2023, or is this a fiscal year?
No, it's calendar year.
Huh. Looks like we did more. But
We noticed that Main Street is spelled wrong, 716 Meon Street.
Oh yeah, see, good guys there.
Like, I don't know where that is, but
Yeah. Right. Okay. You want to flip that down a little bit so we can see the construction updates and what else is in there?
Oop.
Oh, and this one here, it says Lamano, so that'd be LO. Gabrielle. There we go.
under Mallard Lane, it says 3, and in parentheses, it says 2 of the units will be sold to qualified affordable purchasers. I think it's only 2 though, right?
Yeah, it's only 2.
Okay. Okay.
Is this the 2023 report? So talking about what happened in 2023. I'm just wondering, again, from Mallard Lane at the bottom, it says roadway construction has commenced and the issuance of building permits is expected in 2023, or should that be
Oh,
2020?
2024.
Mhm. Well, looks good to me. I said, as long as you've verified that we've caught all the applications that we heard and decided on. But,
Yeah, that's I went through all the agendas and minutes that were
Mm-hmm.
available, and those are the
Mhm.
projects that were
Mhm.
on there.
Mhm. Okay.
Look good to me.
All right. So do we have a motion to accept the report? ZBA report?
Motion to accept the annual report for ZBA.
Mhm.
I will second that.
Gerard Ahern,
Yes.
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Bradley Reed,
Yes,
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
Gabrielle Romano.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So that's taken care of. And so the last item would be to review the desired by John Dixon to become an associate on the board. So, hi, John, welcome. Thanks for sticking along for the first hour of fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a learning experience. I think the biggest thing that I liked is that there's group spell check. It's a nice thing since my spelling's bad.
We like
Yes.
we like some accuracy within our work product, but
No, that's a good thing. Yeah, not sure how you want to handle this. If you just want me to do a quick introduction or
Yeah, just so,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lived in Bolton for a total of 24 years. It was 17 here in 296 Harvard Road. That's about the time when I met Brian, so I've known him quite a while through town soccer and our boys. And then I lived on 400 Sugar Road for 7 years. In between those two, I lived 3 out in Seattle. We were thrilled to come back after my son was born out there. The way family and work and everything goes, the time that I did have to get back to the town was through coaching soccer, which was probably 6-7 years, town soccer, and he's thrilled that I'm not coaching anymore, but he's in high school, junior, daughter's off in college.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm at the point where daughter's in college, son's getting ready to go to college. I talked to Brian. I said, Brian, I want to be able to do something, for the town now. My knee's bad. I can't run, coaching soccer anymore. And he suggested to be part of this. My dad was there. Sorry, go ahead, Gerard.
No, I was just going to say that's great because we're, we have occasions where we don't have full members, like say for Andy missed tonight. But a lot of our big tasks are behind us, like the 40B projects, so it's probably back to a manageable time commitment.
That's good.
I used to hesitate with some people when they wanted to join and say, yeah, I'm very busy at work and this and that. And then you're like, well, in the 40B world, we were having meetings sometimes 2-3 times a month. They were contentious. Sometimes it just wasn't a fun process sometimes. So I think it's a good time to be joining as an associate because we're into probably things like this, variance requests, special permits, more blocking, tackling along the way for property owners versus big, large developments.
Well, it's good. And although everything you went through earlier was logical, there are questions that came up that I wouldn't have thought of. So, there is some learning to do. So I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And at some point I want to meet Liz's dog.
My husband is sick and he's literally just been shredding newspapers in the other room this entire
Oh no.
So I'm really nervous to leave this
Wait,
room.
your husband or the dog is shredding the newspapers? Yeah.
Oh God.
I have Brian Holmes type humor, so I'll lend that kind of. Yeah, I saw your dog clawing at the door.
Brian already said he gave you the pulse test, so.
That's right.
Yeah, I am alive. I am alive.
I mean, you're not a bot. We hear you're a real person, and he knows you're alive. So
good. I appreciate that, Brian. That's good. That's a minimum.
Yeah.
I figured I didn't want to get too deep. That was deep enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he probably told you when I was interested in joining. Probably 25 years ago, whatever it was, at the time they had a board of a lot of varied people, but one of the people was Jackie Smith, and she was sitting in the meeting and they went through their agenda and whatnot. And at the end, she's like, "Oh, we don't have anything else to meet on. Why are you here?" And I said, "Oh, I was sitting in thinking I'd join because I heard, they were down 2 members. And so in many meetings, they were just on a quorum basis. So, so she said, "Oh, can you come up to see me?" And I walked up and she said, "Let me see your hand." And she touched it and said, "Oh, he has a pulse. He's on the board." so that's the test, that you have to pass,
good.
I guess.
If you, then we welcome you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Bradley. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Getting volunteers is not always easy, so we're glad to have you.
I totally get it. Right. I mean, that's how I got into soccer because nobody else wanted to do it. And age director, of course, all that. So I get it. And I'm thrilled there are people like Pam who was helping me kind of prepare for this. And, Liz, I didn't read everything either. I'm starting to feel guilty. And then I'm like, okay, good. I don't feel so bad, but
Yeah.
I've got brushing up on a lot of things just so I understand, but most of this seems logical and making sure all parties are involved, and I like that.
Yeah, and so the process is we have our slew of voting members, and then we have 2 associates, and then whenever a case hearing comes, if someone has would have to recuse himself because they have a conflict with it, or if someone can't attend, then as we did tonight, we vote in one of the associates to be a voting member on the hearing, and and it's just encouraged that sometimes on some hearings last one night, some we would go for multiple hearings, and we had to be sure that we always had someone that if they
Sure.
missed a meeting and they couldn't vote, that someone else would able to then review minutes, review meetings on Zoom, see the videos and assert they saw it, so that we could start that chain again of having someone who could vote on the whole application. But so you're always welcome to comment or ask questions if you're not a voting member on a particular hearing. But if you're on the voting one, then yes, you'd have to be committed to that process if it's lapses into 2 meetings or 3 meetings or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do we have to make any type of motion to have Pam recommend to the selectmen to add John as a associate?
Probably be easiest if you put it into vote, a recommendation into vote, and then I can forward that to the select board.
Okay, perfect.
So we don't need a motion, we just do a vote?
Now let's do a motion to vote, and then why don't you do it, because he's you're still a bud.
So I'll motion to vote to, so we're just making a motion to vote for John to
Nominate.
join the board as an associate member.
Yeah, to recommend to the selectmen to have John appointed as a associate to the zoning board.
Perfect, whatever you just said.
It's just a motion to recommend.
Right.
Okay, so motion to recommend John to the selectmen for zoning board associate member.
Second.
Gerard Ahern,
Yes.
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Bradley Reed,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
Gabrielle Lamano.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you
All
all.
right, well, welcome to John, and we'll so Pam will do the process of the selectmen. Selectmen will, in one of their meetings, will just acknowledge that, and then she'll let you know that it's been accepted. Then you have to go to town council, and I think they'll make you do
The town
swearing
clerk.
in. Town clerk, rather.
Yeah.
Town clerk, and swear you in.
Got it. Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you all. I appreciate
All
it.
right, well, thanks. So I guess all we need then is a motion to adjourn, unless anyone has anything they need to bring up to Pam.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Perfect.
Second.
Do you roll call those?
Yep.
Okay.
Last
Ger-
one.
Gerard Ahern,
Yes.
Brad Reed,
Brad.
He looks frozen.
yeah.
Yes.
I'll come.
Yep.
Oh, we got him.
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
Gabrielle Lamano.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. 8:07, you'll have some fun.
Good night.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll see you,
everybody.
John.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.